Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and young ladies and young gentlemen. Welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Blackstone Millville Regional School District School Committee. I would invite you all to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we start our introductions of members, I would like to wish a very special happy birthday to Tammy.
Thank you.
I would sing, but the room would empty out. So we'll start introductions.
I'm Cassandra from Blackstone.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
Jack Keith, Blackstone.
Jacob, student representative.
Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Panaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Matt Aaronworth, Assistant Superintendent.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
Okay, welcome, everyone. Jacob, what's new?
Not a lot. So, our winter sports have just started this week. Girls basketball has their first game in 20 minutes, and boys basketball has their first game tomorrow. Indoor track had their first meet 2 nights ago. The mock conference for the Middle School Student Council has been postponed twice already because of snow and is now next Wednesday. And that's for the Middle School Student Council. This conference is designed after a leadership conference we would attend at the high school and has multiple parts, including a guest speaker being Anita, who was a president 2 years ago, and workshops led by us to design to break them out of their comfort zone and introduce them to leadership training.
Great.
Also, we registered 10 volunteers for both days of the Special Olympics bocce tournaments hosted by MASC in January, where we will be fans of the stands and helping to create an accepting and open environment at this event.
What's that date, Jacob?
For bocce is January 11th and 12th.
I hope it's indoors.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so the high school's been really busy this week and next week as we're preparing for our annual pep rally, which is held on the half day on Friday. The classes compete in their competitions through the lip sync banners and several games. Next week is our Spirit Week, and the days consist of America Monday, Visco Girl versus Prep Boy, Space Day, Decades Day, and then Friday is our Class Color Day. Over the past month, we teamed up with Millville Elementary and collected toys for Tots, and we were able to receive over 200 donations, which we dropped off yesterday. And this week, Student Council has been collecting canned goods, which we'll send off to the Blackstone Food Pantry.
That's awesome. I saw the photo of the gifts. That was pretty cool. How many more days till graduation?
You guys know?
Come on.
Too many.
Too many.
We can't start counting that yet.
Oh, come on. He already had it.
First meeting I had it.
First meeting he had it because he knew I was going to ask, but he forgot that.
And now it's
occasionally
-1 because you guys had a snow day.
Now it's -1. Oh, my God. Do we have college choices yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I was accepted into Bridgewater State into that education program.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So great.
That's awesome. We need that. All right. Thank you. Thank you. You both stay in a little bit?
Yeah, we're
Yeah, okay. I thought so. Surprise.
Off to me.
Off to you.
All right. So we're really, really excited this evening because we are going to be honoring our top achievers in our district. And of course, MCAS is one measure, but it's a really important one. It's a very rigorous and challenging exam. And we will be honoring and recognizing students that we refer to as top achievers here because these kids in grades 3 through 8 are the students that achieved almost perfect scores. They were in that top 10-point category. Just a stone's throw away from having perfect scores, and we could not be more proud of them. So in a moment, we're going to recognize them. But before we do that, we're going to actually ask Principal Dudek to join Jane, you and I up front here, and we are going to recognize our John and Abigail Adams Scholarship recipients. And Mr. Dudek's going to just share with the audience what that actually is and what that means, and then we'll recognize and honor the award recipients for that. Yeah, we're going to talk to the audience.
We're going to go over there.
So we had a brief ceremony at the high school to honor our seniors, current seniors, that earned John and Abigail Adams Scholarship. And essentially what that is, it's aligned with your MCAS. Students who scored with proficient or higher, with one advanced in either English, math, or biology, and ranked in the top 25% of their class, were John and Abigail Adams recipients. So with that in mind, they do receive a full college tuition scholarship, which is great at the state level. So it's something that, it's a great honor. There is monetary value behind that if our students do choose to go on to a state school in Massachusetts. Some don't, but some that do. It's a great honor, great appreciation for that MCAS standpoint. I know we have, I believe, we have 28 students that received that. Unfortunately, a lot of them weren't here because they have a basketball game tonight, or there's a football banquet, or there's something going on, which definitely tells you that we have students that are not just academically focused. They're all-around students that are constantly, whether it's 5 in the morning or at 9 o'clock at night, doing something for the good of themselves and the community. So I do want to congratulate them for that.
I just want to say we're starting something new this year, and we're going to recognize the excellence of our academic achievers with a little pin that says academic excellence. And hopefully for those of you in 3rd or 4th or 5th grade, you'll get these all through the years, and by the time you graduate, on your lapel of your graduation gown, you'll have about 8 or 10 different pins that you can put. So we're going to start doing them every year, and even our seniors, they'll have one on their graduation gown, but it's one well-deserved. So,
Can I steal one? Can I take one?
what did you do to earn it?
I think my name's in here somewhere.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay. So if you're here, I'd like for you to come up. James Ahern. Daniel Arsenault. Aaron Brown. Might be like 3 of us here.
You knew it was a tough night.
We do, yeah.
There's only so many names you can
Jacob Chaplin. I know he's Elizabeth Correa. Brooke Cagini. Jordan DaCosta. Luke DeLucia. Danielle Dexter. Jared Ducharme. Jacob Dunn. A lot of them are. Evan Haggerty. Olivia Harrison. Jacob Horn. Christopher Kiernan. Damian LaHouse. Aiden McDonough. Alexa Lemieux. I know where she is. I think they're playing in 15 minutes. Liana Munson. Ashlyn Novio. Daniel Pollock. Madigan Smith. Ethan Stearman. Logan Taft. Michaela Tompkins. Charles Truscott. Zana Valdez Nicole. And Emma Winkler.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dudek, and congratulations again to our John and Abigail Adams Scholarship Award recipients. So now we're going to celebrate our grades 3 through 8 students. And again, these are students that in either the English language arts, mathematics, or science MCAS scored in that top tier of top 10 points. So that's why we're calling them our top achievers. And so without further ado, we'll start with the English language arts. Madison Gaudet.
Basketball.
Allison Haley. Caroline Tarnuser. Forgive me if the names. Did I get it right the first time? Kaylee Throll. That's my friend. Mathematics. Clover Maloney. Kayla Moore. Marissa Pedorella. Jackson Perrin. Mathematicians here. Helen Shave. Don Paul second. Did I get it?
How do you say it? Second?
Okay.
Oh, good.
Congratulations. And science, our future scientists, we have Seth Asante.
I missed it.
Isabella Gaudet. Mia Gagnon.
Wait, we missed one. No, you're good.
And Cullen Lawler. And we have one that we are very excited to share that actually was a top achiever for both English and math, Tyler Patterson.
Good. Well, congratulations.
Can I get all of the kids together in one space and just get a couple pictures? Okay, maybe over here, Mr. Dudek, do you mind scooting that table aside?
Want to be in it?
Actually,
Nope.
I think they were looking that up.
Bye, William. What about this stuff? First, I'm going to ask you to look at me, and then you can look at all of your parents. Okay?
Leave it to Matt.
This one's gonna go on the website and everywhere else.
See this lovely lady right here?
Yep.
oh yeah, hold up your certificates so everybody can see.
Everyone hold up your
Not in front of your
certificates and look at me on 3. 1, 2.
Photoshop it.
Now you can look at everyone.
Their basketball uniform right up front.
There you go. I can do it in Photoshop, boss.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Do it.
I don't if you want to mail these or not, but.
I guess so.
The lasting legacy.
That's for next year, but, you know.
It says William on mine. Isn't it cute?
Is it wrong? Is it spelled wrong?
I said the lasting legacy.
You got, look at his certificate. Don't you dare give.
Sorry. Is that
Sorry,
your
Bill.
middle name?
Love you, Bill.
So you can just switch it?
Jacob, don't you give it to him.
Oh, trust me, I won't.
Okay.
Billy, he's loving it. He's hearing all this. It's great.
That's funny.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Great work.
Exactly. Get a lot, 20 of these, or however many you can get. 3 times 5, 15. Ooh. Oh, and 16.
Do you see what it looks like?
No,
Took 2, so
Oh, perfect. Thank
you do not. They're cheaper than championship jackets, but not.
the pins were cheaper than the championship jacket.
So get me
Did they get them yet?
My birthday.
Did they get them yet? Good.
I'm sorry.
No, they should.
measured the kids.
Oh,
Did we order them?
I don't know. We should.
Todd was waiting on 2 more measurements. So as soon as that's all right.
At this point, while folks are organizing, we will see if there's anyone here for a public forum.
No.
Anybody have anything they would like to address the committee about? Okay. In that case, I will entertain, do we have the minutes? Were they in there, the minutes?
November 14th.
Yes.
November 14th,
Okay.
yes.
I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda A, the warrants and the minutes from the November 14th meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Jack, seconded by Tammy. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, great. Back to you, Dr. DeFalco.
Thank you so much. Good evening again, everybody. First item on my report is a discussion and approval of our senior class trip. So if our 2 class advisors would kindly join us at the table up front here. Our 2.5 class advisors, is that?
I'm like, holy moly!
That's 2 and 7/8.
On this or no? Okay.
I did that.
Only because her last.
Oh,
Remember that whole thing?
oh, yeah, that whole thing, yes.
We're not.
Disclose, you have a senior, who cares?
Okay.
I have to be careful of what I say on camera. All right, hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Right.
So we're here to propose a senior class trip for Brownstone Discovery Park on June 1st of 2020. This will be the senior class trip. It has been done in the past, actually with Nicole and I. It will be completely funded by the class of 2020. We have talked and booked 2 coach buses provided by Foxy Travel. We've also talked to Brownstone Discovery Park and know the packages, if you guys want to hear all that, that we will be purchasing. And
We have it here, does anybody
Yeah.
want more detail?
They've done this in the past.
Yes, we've, yeah.
Yeah, we've.
This is the one with the, like, water thingies?
Yeah.
and the-
Yeah, the bunch of water
Line,
activities.
the
Yeah.
inflatable bouncers.
Can we guarantee warm weather? Because last time you went, it was like 20 degrees
It
below
was
zero.
cold.
We have been in the worst of weather, and the kids still had fun, so that's how we're looking at it.
It was really cold.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Jack, yeah, you were there, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Anybody have any questions?
You watching movies on the bus on the way down?
Yes,
Haven't picked any
we
out.
will be.
You are not allowed to pick them? Thank you for asking, though.
I wonder what they're watching. It was Shrek when I went.
I think Jack wants to go.
I think Jack wants to go.
Except you wanted to go last year.
I did
On your
want to
birthday,
go.
and you
I
didn't
did
so
want to go.
Jack
Yeah.
wrote.
You're right. I was not selected as a chaperone. I would do this one too. though. Any other, any, yes, go ahead.
Are the fees being paid by families or by class funds?
So, yeah, that will kind of depend on the
Class
funds at
funds.
the end of the year, yeah. Most likely, like, the last time we did it, it will not be charged, students will not be charged fully for this by any means.
I think
Yeah.
when we went in 2017, I think we charged $10 per student just to secure their spot for the bus,
Yeah.
so that we knew, because we had to pay ahead of time, so we wanted to make sure they were committed.
Yep.
And that $10 went to the bus, and then we were fortunate enough to have enough money in our account to cover the entire trip.
So we're hoping to do something like that again.
So you're looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Wendy and seconded by Tara to approve the senior class trip to, what's it called, Brownstone Discovery Park. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Have fun.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Boy,
We'll, fingers crossed for warm weather.
All right. So moving on, the holiday theme song, "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year," rings true for the budget season we're about to enter into. That was a terrible joke, sorry. That was going to be funny. Over great. So we're going to
Can't win them all.
give it a shot. But tonight, actually, we're going to talk a little bit about our very early thinking, very preliminary thinking around our fiscal '21 budget priorities. And so if you think back to last year at this time, we kind of, we were a little bit lower than 30,000 feet. We were at that kind of 15,000 foot view of what we're forecasting and projecting as far as needs. And similarly, this year, we're going to kind of walk through that same discussion point. And so, jumping right in, as you know, we start all of this work with our district improvement strategy because everything anchors back to this. And as you are very aware, we have a relentless focus on curriculum, instruction, addressing the needs of our whole child, which are those non-academic needs as well as the academic needs, and looking at how to continue to bring our communities together around our schools. And to delve a little bit deeper into that, we really wanted to just kind of do an anchor, if you will, or drop an anchor, so to speak, on our actual. Are we okay?
We didn't approve the field trip for
can do it.
second
Oh,
grade. but
okay.
We can,
Got it.
we can do it.
You sure?
I saw it.
I can-
Yes.
okay.
No, keep going.
All right. So we thought it would be helpful to take just a few minutes and review the data points in addition to our district improvement strategy that are really kind of the driving force behind our actual FY21 budget. And so I won't sit and read all of these different stats, to the committee and to those folks at home, but I do want to highlight a few important, just kind of general pieces of information to just refresh all of our thinking around this, because it is, in fact, these data points that are going to be really pushing forward the request for this year in our fiscal 21 planning. So our enrollment is just a little under 1,700 students. We're serving approximately that number of kids. An important statistic to bring forward, in 2010, our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch was at 15%. That has steadily climbed over the past 9-10 years, and our current number of students, percent of students that are qualifying for free and reduced lunch in BMR is 36.3%. And so we have seen a steady increase year over year over year over year from 2010 to our current enrollment. That's an important statistic to keep in mind as we start thinking about how do we want to frame out our needs for the upcoming fiscal year. With that, 36% of our students are classified as high needs. And so what high needs is, it looks at a kind of a combination of different classifications, if you will. So it's looking at economically disadvantaged students that are also ELL students, so English language learners, and or our students with special needs. And so right now, we are right around that 36% of our students have some combination thereof regarding need. That's important because, as you know, our team has taken a very serious approach of all students means all students. And we need to do what we need to do as a leadership team to ensure that we are meeting the needs of every single student in our district, and are striving very much so to do just that. 17% of our students qualify for specialized instruction or are students with special needs. About 2% are ELL, English language learners. I do want to come back to this notion of our state accountability measure. In Massachusetts, there is a series of indicators for school districts that are all kind of pulled together to give a report card on how we are performing. There is a classification of not meeting goals, making some progress toward goals, substantial progress, or meeting. And I think it's important to note that Blackstone Millville is making substantial progress. That's significant. That's important to mention because we are certainly on our way. So as we continue to move through budget season, we will hear things like return on investment. What's the progress being made with the resources you have? And I have said from day one, give me the resources, hold me accountable. And I share that with this piece of information with the community this evening to say we are making substantial progress. We are moving in the right direction. And I won't walk through all of the MCAS data again. You know, we've had multiple conversations about that, but the information is here for everybody at home to see. The last two bullet points, I do want to revisit those because they are critically important to the progress of our district and to each and every one of our students. But just as a reminder, 35%, almost 36% of our students missed 10 or more days of school last year. That's a really large number. And of that, we had 12.5% of our students missed 10% of school days or more. That's more than 18 days of school. And, you know, we said at the last meeting, we can't teach to empty seats. We got to get our kids here, and they've got to be ready to learn. And so, again, as kind of an anchor, so to speak, in the budget process for FY21, these are additional data points that are really helping to drive forward the needs that we're going to be seeing, not just at a higher level tonight, but as we really start to kind of delve into the weeds and start to get into the technical numbers of what we're going to need. Please know that it all kind of anchors back to this in our district improvement strategy. So as we move forward, our budget process to date, this probably looks very familiar to the community and the committee from last year. We have spent a good chunk of time really talking about not just the needs for FY21, but how are we actually putting together a process that's going to help us get to making sure we've got the right staff and the right materials in front of our students for next year. And so you can see through these these 4 steps, basically how we've walked through the process so far. I think one of the most important things, I know for Mr. Aaronworth and I, is really having the opportunity to sit down with the people that are in front of the teachers, with the teachers, and with the kids every day. And those are our what we call cost center managers. Those are our principals, directors, and having those one-on-one conversations and really getting into the conversations and discussions around what's working, what's not, and what do we need in order to go to the next level with whatever program it is, whether it's our academic programs, our special ed programming, our athletics, fine arts, etc. You'll see that we really don't leave any stone unturned. But a real important piece to this process was revisiting Phase 2 that we called it last year in our FY20 budget cycle. If everybody remembers, we really ended that discussion with a general thinking of where we need to go next.
Right.
And so we're going to revisit that in a second. And so we started with that, and we started by looking at those different needs that we were projecting last budget cycle that we thought we were going to need as we moved forward through this budget cycle to give everybody a general sense of the direction that we'd be moving. And you'll see some commonalities and some patterns and trends that we expected, and you'll see some quarter turns and some things that we think we need to do different. But if you take a look at that third bullet, I think this is probably the most significant difference from this budget cycle, FY21, from last year's in FY20, and that really is the school improvement plans and the district blueprint for improvement. Those are done and in place. And in conversations with each one of our building principals, there were really deep discussions around their requests and where that work fits in their overall school improvement plan and how our financial resources will help to propel our schools forward. And so that's just something that we didn't have in place last year because we were in the midst of developing all of that work. And so as we move forward through, again, this kind of higher level budget forecast this evening, you'll see some evidence of that. And I will tell you, just as an aside, we have met with 2 of our schools to do their school improvement plan first milestone check-ins to say how are we making progress toward the goals that we've laid out in each of our 4 areas, curriculum, instruction, the whole child, and community. And it's been pretty awesome to sit down with the principals and coaches and start to look at their first quarter milestones and the things that they hope to achieve, which things they have achieved, which ones they're, are under construction, and which pieces haven't been started yet. Now, I will tell you, there are 2 of the schools we've met with, there is nothing that hasn't been started.
Wow.
So all of the progress that we are looking to make, all of those action steps are either in place or under construction and moving.
Which two? I'm just curious.
The middle school and the complex. We've got the high school and MES, Millville Elementary, next week. So if we take a look at slide 5, this really outlines what we had ended last budget cycle with. This was kind of that last final slide that we were really discussing, forecasting this next phase of our budget needs. And I will go through these because you'll see between what we thought we were going to need based on where we were in the spring and what we are looking at now. Again, you'll see some commonalities and you'll see some kind of shifts or some quarter turns, if you will, in some of those requests. But initially, last year, when we finished up FY20, we were projecting out that we were going to have the need for 4 additional classroom teachers, 2 additional instructional coaches, some additional curriculum development and instructional resources, money for that, perhaps another Wilson Reading cohort and additional intervention programs, some additional resources for leveled libraries, and some facilities upgrades. And so, again, back in the spring, this is kind of where we were projecting we would be with our needs. So here's a better, more clear picture of where we are. Again, this is kind of that 15,000 foot up. There aren't numbers attached to this yet. It's just meant to give kind of a general forecast of where we think we need to go. And I will just take a moment and kind of walk through these and explain the thinking behind these. So the first is really taking a deep look at our math curriculum and renewal process. This, I want to be clear, this does not mean we are going to be requesting a new math curriculum. This just means we are going to be assembling that pre-K to 12 team to take a look at that, to take a look at our existing programs and resources and see if we are in the place that we want to be with the materials themselves. And so the ask in the budget will essentially be for the resources we need to get the staff together to do that level of work and that level of research. You'll see the bullet under that is the actual request for the literacy materials. If you remember, we have a literacy curriculum committee going right now, right? So the way that the cycle works is in our current fiscal year, that's the committee that's at work to do that research and do that planning. And then the following fiscal year, if there is a budget ask, that's where the ask comes in with the materials and resources, if that makes sense. And so we'll hear a little bit about our literacy committee work in just a few minutes when we finalize our budget discussion. We may be looking for an additional cohort for Wilson. There's still some work that we need to do with that and some decisions that need to be made in terms of how we're deploying our current Wilson cohort and what supports they may need moving forward, so we are still focusing on that. But I will tell you that Jill and the principals have been very hard at work at looking at that RTI, response to intervention structure, and identifying the necessary resources and materials that we currently have that we can be using different, and how to align those resources to meet better the needs of kids and closing some of those learning gaps that they have, or narrowing some of those learning gaps that they have. We've been having a lot of conversation about the possibility of becoming a true one-to-one school district, not just at the secondary level, but what would that look like to bring that down into the elementary classrooms? A lot of our programs truly are now just anchored in technology. Technology will never replace the high-quality instruction that happens between teacher and student, but it's a tool. And a lot of the curricular resources we're moving forward with have strong technology components. As you know, we're running a pilot with STEM scopes right now for science at the elementary level, and to be frank, a lot of that is really anchored in the tech that kids would need in order to be able to do that. But a lot of our intervention resources and materials are really anchored in technology. And as we start thinking about moving those kids forward through the middle and high school, the high school has been one-to-one for quite some time. The middle school went one-to-one last year. And so, it's just the way we're moving. But I want to be clear that it does not replace that high-quality teaching and learning relationship between teacher and student, and it's just a tool. It doesn't replace necessarily the books that need to be in the hands of kids so they can mark them all up and respond to the text and be able to kind of think out loud with the text as they're moving forward through that. And then that last area, of course, is continued enhancement for security. You know that we're focused on both the hardware and the humanware. So making sure that our kids and our teachers and leaders are safe in school every single day, to the point where, we don't want folks to have to even give that a second thought. So as we move forward through FY21, you'll see additional asks for that. Moving forward, we take a look at our staffing, and this is always kind of the big question. And so what we did this evening was actually lay out a couple different things. You will see that we have some new FTEs, or new full-time equivalency, new staff, but you'll also see a couple of positions toward the bottom of the of the slide of the PowerPoint that really look at a reorganization. So I want to bring that forward because that's not new money. It's looking to just restructure existing dollars. And so if you look at the first request under staffing, we are looking again at that planning, teaching, and learning coach. And what we are looking to do is to be able to further support the work at the elementary level, bring on a second coach to help Mary and the team that's there now, and look at a possible structure of having an early learning grades coach for pre-K to 2 that really can zoom in and focus on those high-quality planning, teaching, and learning practices and literacy and math at the most youngest grade levels we serve, and then a grades 3 to 5, that upper elementary, that is really geared towards making sure kids are reading on grade level, doing math on grade level by 3rd grade. We know that 8 is too late. We need to make sure that the kids are moving and ready with that. And then, of course, at the other end of that, making sure that our 5th graders are ready for the middle school experience. And we know that those standards just continue to increase, and the rigor continues to increase with each year. You will see that we are not asking for 2 coaches. We are not asking for a second coach at the secondary level. We do understand the budgetary, constraints we're going to be under. Mr. Aaronworth will talk about that. I kind of get the fun part of the discussion. He has the more tricky part of the discussion this evening around the state forecast, if you will, around our FY21. But we, instead of asking for 2 coaches, we are going to be looking forward to move with 1 at the elementary level. However, we are looking for 1 additional FTE, 1 additional teacher at the high school next year. We are looking for essentially a partner for our current math enrichment and intervention teacher. You know that we added, that was the 1 position we added last year at the high school. As I know the community is aware, and the committee certainly is aware, the stakes have raised significantly at the high school level. Under the old standards and assessments at the state level, we were at 90% proficient or advanced. We are now at 56%. That's a huge shift. And if you jump back a slide and look at the literacy work that we're doing, you will see evidence of that. And I want to take this opportunity to kind of forecast for parents. We are going to see a much more challenging curriculum in front of our kids as we continue to move forward through, in particular with the literacy process for next year. The stakes are higher, the goalpost has been moved, and for our students that are in the high school now that are taking this exam, they don't have this support in place yet. And so we are looking for an ELA intervention teacher to help with those intervention programs, but then also be able to provide additional enrichment opportunities that would virtually eliminate the study halls for our younger classmen, and really get them in some additional electives courses. I know this, you guys are glad you're graduating. But also provide them with the intervention they need so we can narrow those learning gaps again. At the elementary level, we are looking for 2 specialists. And I want to just take a moment to unpack this because that isn't normally a request that comes forward, but there is a really important reason behind this. So at Millville Elementary School right now, and as you know, our response to intervention, right, that targeted instruction for our students who are struggling is very important to us. And we've made some good changes in our intervention programs for students, but at Millville, we still have one of our reading specialists that teaches reading as a special. And that is not a special. And right now, our reading specialist, or one of the reading specialists there, has a class of 25, 27 kids for reading, because there are no other specials to offer the kids. And that's in place because we need to make sure that we can get the teachers together once a week to look at student work, to look at our data of our school, and to make sure that we're making the progress we need to and we're serving the kids correctly and making those mid-course corrections we need to. So of these 2 specialists, we need a 0.6, if you will, of this position to be at Millville. And you'll notice that we put STEAM to increase STEAM offerings because that might be an art class. We're not sure exactly what that would be yet. But we need to get that reading specialist out of that rotation so that she can actually work with kids that are struggling with literacy, and really to help to narrow those literacy gaps. Again, 8 is too late, and everybody is very aware of our literacy levels at grade 3. We're just about 50%. So about half of our students are reading at grade level by 3rd grade. We have a lot of, we're doing a lot of good work, but we have a lot more work to do. And so we are looking for part of that, of those 2 positions to be at Millville to help get the reading specialist out of that rotation. The other 1.4 positions, if you will, would actually go to the complex, the JFK AFM complex. And I just want to explain that a little bit. Right now, at the complex, our students have their STEM class once every other week. At Millville, the kids have it once every week. So we have an inequity there. And I have zero interest, and I'm assuming the committee feels the same, at reducing STEM offerings to kids, right, at Millville to make it align. We need to, in fact, go the opposite direction and move that forward so that we actually have that equitable opportunities for our students in science, technology, engineering, and math. In particular, if you haven't seen it at the complex, we have an amazing makerspace that our librarian's running, to be frank, right now. And she's doing a really great job. But, she needs to be tending to the needs of our library and working with teachers and developing units and getting kids through that. So we are looking to increase our STEM instruction at the complex. And that additional 0.4, we also need for the complex because our teachers at the complex, as I mentioned, Millville has their teachers meeting every week in these professional learning communities to look at student work and look at their lesson plans and really work as a team and how to move their kids forward. At the complex, they have it every other week because we don't have enough enrichment opportunities for kids there. So these 2 additional elementary specialist positions would level the playing field. Teachers in every building would have their professional learning community meetings every week, and the students in every school would have equitable opportunities for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math instruction. And teachers in every school would also have the opportunity to collaborate at the same rate that is required. So again, it's kind of it's a bit of a unique ask. Isn't typically what comes forward, but know that there are some very important pieces behind the request here. The last two positions are not new money that we're looking for. As we move through this process, we'll be looking to have some discussions around reorganizing and creating some new job descriptions that we don't currently have. If you remember, last year we worked through a special education reorganization. And we created the Director of Learner Services, and then we created an assistant admin for special ed. We decided to reorganize that and hire a coach in the special ed department instead. And so we will have some discussion with the committee moving forward through the winter months about leaving that model in place and having that coach in place, but using that other half of that assistant admin for a social worker for our district. We have a significantly different demographic than we once had. And there's a lot of need. However, I also want to go back to our whole child approach and how we're working with our current staff, our guidance counselors, our adjustment counselors, and our school psychs, and we can talk about what all those different folks do. But we have a big missing piece of this puzzle. And one of those components is what happens when our students leave us after a 6-hour school day or a 7-hour school day or a week vacation in February and April or July and August. What's happening with the students that are in need? Where are the wraparound services and some of that care coordination that needs to happen outside of school? And I know there will be a lot of debate on this and a lot of conversation of what's our responsibility and what's not, but I want to remind everybody, all means all.
6%.
And those students are our kids. And what we'll be looking to do is reorganize some of our existing dollars to make sure that we can help support students across the continuum and families across the continuum to really coordinate the services that they need to be successful. Because regardless of what happens outside of school, the kids walk into our buildings every day, and all of that stuff comes with them, right? They kind of unpack that suitcase in our classrooms, and we are well equipped to manage those situations in school. Our guidance counselors are working very hard on scheduling and the academic side of the house, so to speak. The adjustment counselors are doing a lot of, small group intervention, one-on-one meetings with kids, fulfilling needs in the individual education plans. Our school psychologists are doing all the assessments and the retesting and are sitting at those team meetings. This is a very different position that would help to really align the services for students and families that are exhibiting those kind of Tier 3 behaviors or Tier 3 situations, the most urgent of situations. And I can tell you, as recent as today, we received some notification of another homeless family in our community. Ms. PG and I were coordinating with the Worcester Homeless Coalition trying to find emergency housing for families. The need's here. And, Mr. Aaronworth is always very good and very quick to also note, but we have needs on the other end of the continuum too, and we have a lot of students that are exhibiting a lot of stress outside of school and putting a lot of pressure on themselves to perform a particular way so they can get into the best and strongest of colleges and programs. And so, there is certainly a need here on all ends of the continuum.
I was going to ask who is doing this now, but you kind of just answered it, so.
So we have our adjustment counselors really do their best to coordinate with DCF for those families that are DCF involved, and we have a significant number that are. But there's a lot of families that are not, that need, in-home therapeutic services. Or we have children over the summer that there's a significant summer slide because, none of us have their eyes on them. We don't have them enrolled in programs. The one-on-one weekly check-ins with the adjustment counselors just stop in June. And then July and August, there's nothing. So this individual would work 12 months, non-union position, that would go to homes and would really be the point person for that care coordination for those families, regardless of socioeconomic status or whatever the issues are. and would help to coordinate services across the district as well. And I know we'll have much deeper discussions on that as we move through the budget cycle and start talking about reorganizations and things, but I wanted to put that out there now because it is an important part.
Is that a position that could potentially be grant funded through, you know, there's so many initiatives for SEL, social emotional learning and things like that. Have we explored any grant opportunities?
So there was so that's an awesome question. There was a huge movement a few years ago. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Harlem Children's Zone. And there was so much work done, to be frank, I think in almost every state in our nation, trying to replicate that. And Massachusetts was no difference. They had a huge statewide wraparound initiative, wraparound coordinator, wraparound zone initiative. And unfortunately, a lot of that money is dried up, but some of that has transitioned into the social emotional learning piece. A lot of grants are very slow to fund actual positions, but we'll do a lot of work around staff development and planning and making sure that we would be ready to take a position on like that. But we are certainly open to pursuing those without a doubt and seeing what grant opportunities are out there for that. And then the other position is looking at a math interventionist at the elementary level. We've worked really hard to reorganize at the elementary level, and we've been able to do that with success at the complex. Our reading specialists they're not in the rotation. They don't have an enrichment class. You don't go as a class of 27 to reading or 25 to reading. So we've been able to do that, but we do have a large gap in math. And I know there's a lot of work to be done to strengthen our core programming there. I'm definitely the first one to put that right out there. But all that being said, December 12th comes once, and that day's not going to come back around for that student. And so we want to make sure that as we are continuing to strengthen our core work, we have an opportunity to provide some intervention for students that need that as well, again, to kind of narrow those learning gaps for kids. And we would look, again, at our existing staffing pattern to see what we could reorganize with that. But I think that the transparency piece of this is just hugely important, so everybody has a good sense of just kind of what we're thinking at about a 15,000-foot view up at this point.
Jason, may I just ask a question about the interventionist existing and like this type thing? Are all of those services pull-out services, or are we also pushing in to regular typical classes?
Yeah, so right now it depends. It depends on the school and it depends on the subject. So in math, there's very little math intervention. We have it at the high school. And right now, the high school team's actually working with the individual that we have brought in to do that work and kind of customizing his schedule based on the students he's serving. And we're using the STAR data as one of the kind of driving pieces for that in terms of who he's working with and what their focus is. So there's a little bit of a hybrid there. We don't have math intervention. We don't have an interventionist at the elementary level. So at the elementary level, we have more of an RTI model, where that is happening with the classroom teachers. And we would by no means replace that response intervention structure with one interventionist. So it just wouldn't make sense. We wouldn't be able to do that. So right now at the elementary level, that's like self-contained. It's the kids right in their classroom working with different stations of work with different focus areas. The middle school is even more different. So the middle school is using VMath, really focusing on that bottom 25% of learners and targeting their instruction, utilizing kind of a blended learning platform with the classroom teacher and actual technology software piece. So it's a little bit different with that.
Who does the instruction? Does the computer do the instruction? Or the person does?
The person does, but the kids then do the work with the VMath program.
Okay.
But there is a tutorial piece to that too. So I mean,
Okay.
the kids can go through a tutorial on adding fractions with different denominators, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a hybrid. And I don't know if I missed anything, Jill, but I think that's, So this model, our sense would be, again, some pull-out, possibly some push-in, depending upon what the needs are of a particular class or a particular group of kids. If you remember, as as school district, we are measured at the state level on our ability to move our bottom 25% of learners. So,
And that's across both all 3 elementary schools?
yes, yeah, we would start with this. As we continue to strengthen our RTI model, we would look to bring in a math specialist to work with some of the, yeah, like we do with our reading specialists, right? And then just so, you know, what's next? Where do we go from here? We will have a formal presentation on January 9th. Mr. Aaronworth and I will be spending our holidays getting the budget finalized and together, at least that initial draft, so that we can have that ready for the 9th. We will then set up, with the committee's approval, the cost center manager workshops that we have, where each of the principals and directors come before the committee and have those discussions. We are looking to get on the calendar a joint meeting with our Board of Selectmen, our FinCom, school committee, and make sure we have all of our friends at the table to talk about the fiscal picture for FY '21.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Just to give you a sense of where we are.
Thank you.
And Ms. Aaronworth's going to do the second part of our discussion tonight, and that's really to get under the hood of what's happening at the state level and what's kind of the deal with the Student Opportunity Act. I do want to say right up front, it's important to note, and as you know, I co-chair the Commissioner's Accountability and Assistance Committee for him and the Board of Education with the superintendent from Somerville. And as we are gearing up for our January meeting, we've had some discussion with the Department of Education around the Student Opportunity Act, because there are additional accountability measures tied to the resources that will be flowing from that. But what I really want to underscore, and Matt is going to go into good detail on this, 85% of the additional resources that are being allocated from our legislator is going to 15% of our school districts. 85% of the money is going to 15% of the districts. We are not one of the 15%. I'm just going to say it as boldly and bluntly as we can. Although Matt will get into the weeds of this and explain, you know, how this looks and
Good luck.
where this comes from. And I'm happy to hand over the clicker to Matt on this one.
I will do my best to try to explain a very complicated process and simplify it, not to belittle anyone's intelligence. If you break it down, it actually is not that, it's not that mystical. It really just has a lot of parts. So, for starters, as everyone knows, people are talking about the Student Opportunity Act. And what this is it's a recalculation of the foundation budget. And it is focused on a number of things. It is increasing funding to our schools, as Dr. DeFalco mentioned. And it has a few key pieces, which are it increases funding for ELs, it increases funding for districts serving the greatest number of low-income students, which is 50% or more. That's, unfortunately, we are not one of those that will receive more funding from that area. It does increase funding for social emotional supports, which we may see a little bit of that. It increases SPED funding and circuit breaker reimbursement. It increases funding for the charter school reimbursements. They are saying that they are anticipating raising the reimbursements to the full reimbursement rate. And they are saying, as Dr. DeFalco mentioned, that they will, with these funds, be introducing new accountability standards. What is not clear right now, and many people have been confused, some people think that this whole project is being implemented next year. Some people are saying it's going to be implemented over a 7-year spread. That will become clearer as the governor's numbers are released and as things move forward through January. So how is this going to happen? So essentially, the foundation budget is figured out through a large formula, and it is based upon specific rates. And it's a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but I'm going to explain it a bit, and then I'm going to walk you through a couple of examples that are on the page. So there are, in the foundation formula calculation, there are 13 types of students that are identified. For example, there are preschool students, high school students, elementary school students. Then there's our EL grades 6 through 8 students, our EL high school students. Then there's special ed in district, special ed out of district, and then there's our economically disadvantaged students. That's a bunch of them, that's not all of them. There are 13 specific categories of students, and each district has a certain number of students that falls into each of those categories. For each of those categories of students, there are 11 different categories of charges that the state assigns. So for each type of kid, the state says, you're going to need to pay for that kid according to these 11 things. You're going to need to pay for, and those are on your sheet. For any kid, you're going to have costs that are associated to administration, instructional leadership, teachers, other teaching services, professional development, instructional materials, guidance and psychological services, pupil services, operations and maintenance. I won't read all of them. I stopped at a couple left. So it's a big multiplication formula, is really what it is. And the way that this act is going to increase the foundation budgets is very simply taking the rates of the per pupil in these different areas and increasing the rates in certain areas. So, for example, on page 3, if you take a look, the top of this page has our current per pupil expenditure, the rates that were given under Chapter 70 for preschool, half-day kindergarten, and full-day kindergarten students. I'd like you all to look. There's a column that says guidance and psychological services. If you look, $118.08 per pupil for preschool, $118.08 per student for kindergarten half, $236.18 per pupil for kindergarten full day.
Wait a
At the
second.
top,
Oh, at the top.
under guidance, at the top,
Got it.
on the top.
No, I see that one. I'm just comparing.
Yep, exactly.
So-
And I know the columns are a little skewed, but if you move to the bottom chart is the end result of the Student Opportunity Act. These are the new rates that will be implemented whenever this fully takes effect. So if you find guidance and psychological services, you'll notice that 118.08 moved to 188.97.
Gotcha.
188.97. And a stark difference is a full-day kindergarten student goes, for psychological services alone, you're going to see a change from getting $236.19 per student to getting $377.95 per student. If you flip the page, this page will demonstrate the focus of this act on ELL students. So this shows the English learners, and if you take a look at many of the factors for EL students, take just, for example, administration, which is just the first column. The current rates are $90 for pre-K to 5, $94 for 6 through 8, and $73 for high school students that are EL. They've emphasized that they are making tremendous changes for high school EL students because they're at the most significant disadvantage coming in so late. And you can see if you look at the end results, Those numbers are moving to $100.50, $107 for the middle level EL students, and the high school EL learners are moving from $73 per student to $129 per student. And that's just in the area of administration. So that's what's happening in order to give schools additional funding. This will increase the foundation budget that every school district is expected to meet. So, what does this mean for BMR? People have said, wow, this is going to be a lot more money for the schools. And it sounds like that is going to be true. Right off the bat, I've taken our numbers and calculated our foundation formula, difference between our current rates, and plugged in all of the ending rates for the Student Opportunity Act. And at the end of the Student Opportunity Act, whenever that will be, whether it's the beginning of 21 or 7 years from now, we will see an increase of $1.3 million to our foundation budget, which sounds very nice.
However,
However, one of the things that people need to understand is the foundation budget is not given to us by the state. The foundation budget is given to us in two ways. It's split between Chapter 70 aid, which is given to us by the state, and minimum local contribution, which is given to us by the towns. So approximately, it's a 50-50 split. So if we look at it that way, we're going to see approximately $662,000 increase over the course of this whole project. There'll be an increase in aid of $662,000, and there'll be an increase in aid, and there'll be an increase in minimum local contribution of $662,000.
Which the towns have to pay.
Which the towns have to pay. If you note on the bottom, we are already in hold harmless. We owe the state hold harmless debt, as we have for the past number of years. That is why we have only seen minimum aid, which is a raise of $30 per pupil per year. People may not understand what hold harmless debt is. It's not a common term that we throw around. On the right side, there's a brief explanation, and on the left side of this page, there's a perfect example. So Chapter 70 was created back in 93 to 94, and one of the stipulations of it was that they said no district would ever receive less aid than it received the year before. They never wanted to take aid away. However, due to declining enrollments or changing socioeconomic factors in districts, certain districts qualified for less aid from the state. We are one of those districts. And by all means, please know, there are a number of these districts. There are a significant number of regional districts that are in exactly the same boat that we are. I think, in fact, in speaking with some people in this area, most of the towns in this area that have the same representatives that we have are also in the same exact situation. However, so given our declining enrollments and our socioeconomic changes, we've been given aid that we didn't necessarily earn from the state. And that puts us into a hold harmless debt state. If you look at the left side of this page, and follow along, you can see the numbers. this is our FY '20 Chapter aid allocation, Chapter 70 aid allocation. Number 1 shows our FY '19 Chapter 70 aid allocation, which was $10,932,919. Step 2 shows our total foundation budget that was calculated for FY '20, which was $18,718,000. Number 3 shows what the district contribution was calculated at, or our MLC, which was the $8,774,000. We were told that we qualified for foundation aid of $9,943,000. Now, how much over the prior year did that go? Nothing. It didn't even meet the prior year's aid. It fell below. So they weren't going to give us less money than they gave us the prior year. So instead, you see the reduction to our foundation is 0. The increase in number 5 is 0. And the only thing that we received this year is on number 6, which is the minimum aid, which is $30 per pupil. And that came out to $52,320. And we will continue to see this for some time. So what does this all mean? Not to be a downer. This does mean probably significant increases to the upcoming minimum local contributions, because the foundation budgets are going to change. They are going to increase. We are not going to see that increase on the side of the aid we're receiving, but the towns are going to have to provide that minimum local contribution. It means we're still going to see the minimum increase to our aid, which is probably $30 per pupil per year. It does, however, mean that we might be seeing larger charter school reimbursements. It also means we could be seeing significantly larger circuit breaker reimbursements. Depending on the transportation reimbursements and how that gets funded, which it has been increasing, and there's a tremendous advocacy to see it increase, we could see more funding there as well. So that's another avenue where we may see an increase in revenue. And it also means we still don't know how this is going to be rolled out. We still don't know how long it's going to take. And we're really still not sure on what the numbers are going to look like entirely. So we will know significantly more in January when the first round of the governor's numbers come out. And as I believe Dr. DeFalco mentioned, we are very concerned, and we want to make sure that our legislators know. As I mentioned, we're not the only ones in this boat. There are a lot of districts like us that are in hold harmless, and we want people to understand that this is a great formula for certain districts. It is not necessarily the right answer for us. There are other changes that could better serve our regional districts and or smaller rural districts in areas like ours, and we are trying to vocalize that and get together with our representatives and our legislators and make sure that they know that this is the case, because a lot of this stuff has been going through on the floor and everyone's saying how great it is because it's giving money to the students and it's pouring money into the schools. And at first sight, it does sound like that, but it's only going in a certain direction.
It is for 15% of the school
It is for 15% of the school districts. We need to make sure that we're expressing where we fall in this equation.
And from my reading and from what you said, it has the potential to tremendously impact the towns at an ability that they have no recourse.
Correct. And there's no guarantees right now,
No,
so
we
I'm,
don't
not-
know.
again, I think things will start to become more clear in January as we start to see real numbers. But the fear that many districts are expressing are, this is going to further and further tax the towns and their ability to create or come up with these minimum local contributions that they're going to have to, and it's going to become very hard.
And it essentially negates any supplemental or additional.
So they pay more and we
Can't ask for any more.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
less.
It would just be changed, whatever additional contribution there is now would just move over to the minimum
Correct.
contribution.
But we would see no additional.
That we're trying to drop one
Do we have to
percent.
wait until January to find out if special ed transport is going to be counted in circuit breaker?
So special education transportation is going to
It
be
will be.
counted into circuit breaker. That is that is a change that has already been put
Do we
forward.
have to start worrying that they're going to then drop the percentage of the reimbursement?
No, I'm not anticipating that they're going to drop the percentage of reimbursement. However, while the transportation will count toward qualifying for reimbursement, all academic costs will be reimbursed first before any transportation costs are reimbursed. So they're going to go through the entire state,
Gotcha.
reimburse all
All
of
the
all of the
special
academic
first,
costs first, and then go back and reimburse as much as they can of the transportation costs. But it will help qualify for the reimbursement, because all of it will count the same.
Question? Yeah, go ahead.
I have several.
Sure.
So whose job is it to explain this formula to the towns? It's not yours, is it?
Thought I just did.
When they get that bill, so who's giving them this new formula? Is it something they've been part of? Or it's not? It's
Well,
us? It's on us?
It's
Yeah.
us. When we give the budget, when we do our budget in
That's why we
January.
wanted to try to get a little bit of control on the narrative right now out there, because this is so wonderful, this is so great, and the parent chat rooms are, not necessarily here, but I mean, in other places are kind of exploding with how
great.
fabulous this is. I don't know if people understand the
So
nuances of it.
I have already sent to both towns kind of a forewarning of be prepared.
And we don't know 100% yet,
No.
right?
Yeah.
But
So that was my next question, is when, I mean, is it a definite that some part of this is rolling out for this year's Chapter 70? Or is it
It's
still, we don't know until January?
Yeah.
it's pretty definite that
Something
at
is
least
changing.
1/7 of it is rolling out. What the specific impact of that will be is not entirely clear, because there's also inflation that hasn't been factored in to any of this, and that's one of the things that was brought up when those original numbers were just thrown out erroneously, and everyone said that's not really what the impacts are going to be, that's not what the towns are going to see. Some time ago, there were factors that weren't put in. So there really are certain factors that can't be forecasted that far in advance, and it does unfortunately take a bit of time. So as the numbers come out, and I had discussed with Dr. DeFalco a hesitancy to get that deep into the numbers, because I'm not
We don't know yet.
100%
We don't know.
confident
Yeah,
with
we
the
don't know.
numbers. But our hope is that this gives an understanding of what's coming.
Right.
And
And just a
as the
caution.
yeah,
Yeah, just a
exactly.
caution.
And as the numbers do come and are solidified, then I'm certainly happy to have workshops with everyone in the towns and go through what the formula specifically is and what our numbers are for the formula, and show how that impacts the MLC. I can say right now, it's not listed here, But, one of the other factors is where you fall in the economically disadvantaged decile.
Right.
And we fall into the 5th, because while our free and reduced lunch population is 36%, many of our students don't enroll in state programs. And we only have 444 students identified as economically disadvantaged.
About 22%.
Which comes out to about 22% of our students. So.
But look at the
we're-
gap there, right?
Yeah.
There's a,
Yep.
between 36 and 22.
Yeah. So the funding that we receive for the EcoDis students is probably lower than what it should be. But I can start putting those numbers in to those categories of students, showing what the actual rates are, and going through the calculations.
I'm not going to answer questions.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much, Matt.
And just very quickly, I just want to give an update to the committee on the literacy work that we've been doing. We have a kindergarten through 12th grade team, as everybody knows, that has been working for a few months now on really reviewing and getting into the latest research around what high-quality literacy programs look like, what high-quality texts mean, and what those texts actually are at the different grade levels, and looking at the programs and resources and supports that have been most recently researched that show strong impact on student reading levels. And so we've had 3 full days of meetings around looking at just the elements of really strong literacy programming, and then reading all of the research, and in between sessions, actually using some of the materials, meeting with different grade level teams, looking at different programs, meeting with different consultants from different various programs. We started with essentially the 10 highest ranked research-based programs that exist, period. And we looked at them at the elementary, middle, and high school level. Where we are now, we have a meeting. I have a meeting next week with Corey Hamner, who is the former chief academic officer and PD director for Memphis City Schools, and she has been working with us and kind of shepherding us through this process. And we have a meeting scheduled to look at essentially the top 2 kind of selections or picks from each of the grade spans. I will tell you, I think the biggest lift, or the heaviest lift, in terms of people really kind of recalibrating and readjusting expectations, will be at the high school level. What we are finding is that the level of rigor of our high school text is not what it needs to be under our new standards. So we are wrestling with how to essentially take what is currently junior and senior texts and put them in freshman, sophomore year, because that's just the new standard. That's what's required. So, and that isn't anything new. We know that we've continued to kind of ratchet up the level of challenge at each grade level. I think the younger grades will have a little bit easier of a shift, and are really eager to take that on because of our current literacy program, Reader's Workshop. So I have met with staff at every single grade span, and they're all equally excited. I think the high school's just hesitant because it's such a shift. And the staff are kind of wrapping their heads around, how do I take what is traditionally a senior level text and put it in freshman, sophomore year? And how do we scaffold for that? Like, what does that actually look like to make sure kids are ready to access that text? So those are all the right questions, by the way, to be asking. And if we replace a 9th and 10th grade literacy program, but we decide to leave the units of instruction for our juniors and seniors, what's the actual text replacement or the anchor text we have to put in those different courses for kids so that they're not reading, they can't read the same text twice, in 2 different courses. That's just not good practice. We wouldn't do that. So it's how do we kind of restructure those units at the higher levels. So those are just some of the things we're kind of grappling with. And we are also working on different fiscal scenarios. So what will it look like at the elementary, middle, and high school level if we went with Program A or Program B? And then once we start getting our arms around those numbers, we'll actually have something more definitive to put into the budget, FY21 budget ask. Of course, looking at what can we repurpose first, right? What are the existing PD and curriculum money that we have that we can, reassign to that before we do anything else. So it's really exciting work. I think this is going to make a really big difference for every single one of our students, because literacy is the backbone of everything we do. So once we really get that number, the program in place, and we start getting the student numbers to increase and regarding kids reading at grade level and beyond, I think that will be a game changer for us. I do. I think that's going to be a huge lift, and particularly at the elementary level, who, we just don't have the program in place.
What are the top 2 programs?
They're different at each grade span. I didn't bring the 6 programs with me. But the elementary, middle, and high school are looking at separate programs, which is fine. We have that in math right now. We have Envisions, we have Big Ideas, and then we have content-specific, subject-specific courses in math at the high school. So it's not uncommon to do that.
Different ones.
But I can send you, I can send the committee that information once I pull it all together.
Yeah, I'm just curious, on the vertical alignment, especially with the 5th going into 6th and the 8th going into 9th. If they're going for different programs, I would like to understand more how they're going to
bridge.
vertically align and the
Yeah.
bridge between these programs, if they're not going to be consistent with the program that's chosen.
Sure, and we spent a lot of time discussing that, and so there is not, and I know that people know this, but there is not a K-12 program.
No.
There are some K-8 programs, and there are some 6-12 programs, but there's nothing that kind of covers the whole spread. And the K-8 programs were definitely reviewed. The challenge there was that the research that we were reviewing from Ed Reports, they didn't do as well as the other programs. And so we're looking at that vertical mapping, because that's going to be important. But at the end of the day, the standards are the standards. So we have to figure out how do we actually make sure we bridge 5 to 6 and then 8 to 9.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Aaronworth, before we move to you, we're going to go back to,
Oh, I apologize, I was going to pause and let you vote.
okay, our consent agenda. And we missed the field trip, the 2nd grade field trip to Mystic Seaport, the aquarium. I'll entertain a motion to approve the field trip.
What's that, that's
Is the
the
date
MES,
on
right?
there? It's
in the
It
green
says
folder.
May.
on May 2020.
Is there a date in the red folder?
Red folder.
It should be on the actual,
May.
May.
Are there, it just says May.
They're going for a month.
Are there 2 in there or just 1?
There's 2. The other one's senior trip.
Oh,
Pretty close to it.
There's
So in
not-
May.
Not a specific date.
okay.
for the month.
Does anybody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Moved by Aaron, second.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, they're going to Mystic. Thank you, Mr. Aaronworth. You're on again.
Oh, excellent. So, if we would like to take a look, now some good news. Our revenue review. If you take a look, I'll try to be brief.
We appreciate it.
Yes. Everything is going pretty smoothly. As of right now, no hiccups in what we are supposed to be collecting. And we are anticipating, as you can see, total anticipated revenues of $24,802,000, which should be covering our costs.
Well,
Moving to our expenditure review.
for those that can read.
Are there questions on the revenues? One of the things that I did to note, I removed the cafeteria revenue
Okay.
that I had previously listed on this. Maureen Gonzalez and I are working on a full cafeteria budget, but I'll introduce it once we have that budget fully figured out. But theirs is also a separate bank account,
Yeah.
and it is really not connected directly to ours, so we've discussed that, but I just wanted to point out, because I did remove it from the report. From an expenditure perspective, we are also looking like things are going well. I did put notes on the side for any spot where there was something that looked like it was going to be going into the red. So I'll point out the superintendent's office still, that area is in the red, and that's due to the additional consulting costs that we took on and some others. If you look at line function code 1430, I have a feeling that that may be going further into the red in the upcoming weeks and months.
No.
Yeah, with negotiations.
Yep, with the negotiations. The curriculum leaders, that is still, we did add additional curriculum writing. There were additional support staff added due to needs of students for line 2330. One thing that I noticed that stood out toward the bottom of the page was the 7,000 line, which was the grant expenditures, because I did start plugging in what we'd be specifically spending the grants on, and it came up that we were at a deficit according to what was budgeted, but when I went back, what we budgeted, we under budgeted for what we were actually awarded.
Oh.
So the expenditures are right, and according to what we budgeted, we are over what we budgeted. However, we'll be bringing in more than what we budgeted.
Gotcha.
And again, for the tuition, which we, surprisingly, it only looks as if we're going to be going slightly over budget. There are funds that we will be using to cover our out-of-district tuitions from FY19 circuit breaker. So as of right now, the projection has not been updated, but I'm very confident that we are still within range of hitting our targeted budget of the 24,771, which, as you can see, will still keep us in line with our revenue.
Correct. Actually better.
Keeps us,
Which is very important.
Very close.
us afloat.
A few little extra pennies.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
There's also the personnel changes sheet, which we don't discuss, but that is for your viewing pleasure. And on your facilities update, I'll go through a little bit of what is listed here. I apologize, were there any questions on any of the other revenues, expenditures? And as always, if there are any questions when you look through this, if you see things that jump out at you, you can always email me or call. I'm happy to answer specific questions at any time. So for the elementary boiler update in Millville, we are very happy to say and very grateful to the town of Millville and to everyone who came out to vote that on December 4th, Millville voted to approve the Millville Elementary Boiler Project. I believe the vote was 101 to 37, something along those lines. MSBA has granted us an extension, and we have until the 23rd to get all of the documentation to them so that we can get the next phase of this project moving.
So is there anything that we need to do as a committee? Do we need to approve something or sign something?
I will double check on that
Okay.
and get back to us. I think we have done most of what we need to do to this point.
Okay.
I need to get all of the documentation notarized and get the responses from the votes
Okay.
and send that off to MSBA.
Okay.
There are some things that might be needing signing as far as amendments from now, the contracts from the designers, and to get that saying that we're moving forward with the next step, but
Okay.
I will provide that. Regarding the JFK AFM roof complex, the complex roof, both.
Is that a position?
Dr. DeFalco and I did have the walkthrough with Sarnafil and Maya and the town. Maya is going to be adjusting the amount that they told us that they were going to be giving us for the claim.
Up or down?
up
Yeah.
significantly. Additionally, they are waiting for us to provide them with an updated estimate of what it will cost to repair the actual cabling system. And I was able to get in touch with the manufacturers of the cabling system who did the initial investigation of the system after it was damaged. So we've been making some very good headway with that. And I'm just about ready to send a proposal, an estimate over to the insurance company to give them those final numbers as well, and hopefully start moving on some work. Yeah.
No, please, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, what we may end up doing is determining whether or not we're going to repair it as it was or change what the system looks like. Because the cabling system led to the problems in the first place, and we may change to just a loose anchor system with more anchors that are there that people can tether off to, as opposed to having the lines that are connected to the anchors as the lines just gather the snow and the ice.
I think the important part of this process, and I think a good lesson learned for all of us involved, at least, was get them all there together. Because when we did all this stuff separately, it was this one with that, and that one was this, and, you know, we just said, we're going to meet, we're going to do it, and then, we were all up there, the manufacturer, the insurance company, the towns. I mean, it just, you know, was a better way to do it, because you
Oh,
can't
he
point at
said, she
somebody
said, yeah.
when
See
he's
us up there,
standing next
Mary?
to you,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
The teachers thought it was great, too, seeing a whole crowd of
Crew
us
of us
up on the
To
roof.
get up there.
In suits.
Through the
There's a hatch.
little
All
hatch.
right.
Yeah.
Imagine if there's a ladder outside the building.
Regarding the high school vestibule, the security vestibule, TSKP is going to be designing the vestibule. They were actually out yesterday taking measurements and looking at the area. So we're hoping to have the design by the end of December. They also need to put the design to mechanical. It has to be, the drawings have to be looked at by mechanical experts to check to see where wiring and the equipment can go. So that may get pushed out a little bit into January, but we'll see. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we'll still have that and get to put that out to bid.
Does this project impact outdoor graduation?
It should not, no.
Vestibule's inside the hallway.
The vestibule
It's
is
not coming out.
inside. It's not bumping out anything.
Not bumping out
No.
at all?
No.
Okay.
The sewage pumping station at Early Village, that pump was ordered right after we discussed it at the meeting, and it's still on a wait time. Everything's running properly, so it's still functioning. But there, as I mentioned earlier, there's an 8 to 9 week wait, and it's coming in. Septic system at JFK, there's some electrical problems at the JFK septic system. Dr. DeFalco and I have been in touch with Dan Keys as of today about it. There's a wiring issue that apparently has been known about for some time. It was
The sandwich, right? The roof, and then you got the septic underneath. Like, we've been underground, we've been on the roof. It's really
Not
quite
going in, are
interesting.
you?
Not going in the septic, I hope.
yeah.
Is there a hatch to
Interesting.
get down there?
Interesting pictures. I sent Matt down yesterday.
Oh, poor Matt.
I'm kidding.
In my suit. I just put on galoshes and
You
jumped
just
in.
burned the suit when you came out.
Yeah. There's
The wiring issue.
cabling that runs underground that has been damaged, and it's basically, there's new electrical work that's going to need to be dredged through the ground and around the building and into a panel. It's a significant amount of work.
Is there a pump? Is that what
There's a
is
pump.
the
Yep.
electrical?
Yep, the pump was repaired a couple of years ago, and that was a big project. And they knew then that there were some issues with the electrical, but the electrical was still working. So they left it to continue, because it was working at the time, but now it's really starting to fail.
Not working so well, yeah.
I've already gotten I've gotten
So
one.
what kind of problem is this causing?
The alarms are going off, and then the
Like that it
pumps will
needs
stop working, potentially.
Be pumped?
We did pump it
been- yeah, we've
to
been
be,
doing
sec-
that.
to
Is
be
there-
safe. We
Yeah.
pumped it to check, so to be very clear.
I saw 2 trucks there one day, one early
pumps-
morning.
I did too.
The pumps are, so the alarms are going into fault because of the
Okay.
electrical issues, but we can't be sure that the pumps won't stop working. So we did pump the septic system to ensure that the pumps were still working. We confirmed that at least one of the pumps was still working. So the septic is being pumped. It's not flooding right now. We're ready on standby to repump it, the septic system, if needed. By pumps, I mean the pumps running in the system that are ejecting the materials. And, yes.
Let's wrap this up, Matt.
Sorry. Well, there were some questions for clarification.
So is there a town, I don't know who knows the answer to this, but BMR is pumped down towards Early Village, so Blackstone Street. Is there not town, does anyone know if there's town sewer, what it would be called? On
Lincoln or
Mendon
Mendon?
or Summer? I'm gonna guess maybe not Summer, because BMR doesn't go out the front, goes out the back.
In Mendon?
Lincoln,
Well,
not
it's
Summer.
Summer Street.
No, it's still Lincoln here.
Lincoln.
It's still Lincoln.
It goes from.
Well, the street in front of BMR.
It's still
Do you
Lincoln.
know?
Street stops at the paper road like a quarter mile past BMR. It continues into the woods, and Summer Street.
So is there
stops.
any septic over there?
I don't know if
I
there's
wonder why
septic.
we've never
Goes
connected
on
if
Lincoln
that
Street.
were.
But I got an estimate, we're working on it, and we will definitely update everyone.
Thank you.
And then you figure out if it's us or.
The first estimate I got was 27.5.
I'm just wondering if the town would rather connect to their own sewer if they have it there. It's their building, but I don't know if it's on the street.
I was on the phone with Dan this
They
morning.
should just run it up Mendon.
And he's also going to get a couple of quotes, and we're going to work together to see what the solution is.
Okay.
They should have done that before they put a new road in.
And last but not least, the capital planning RFP. It has been posted. We've gotten a large number of people that have responded and have expressed interest. On the 10th, we had a pre-proposal meeting, and there were a number of companies that showed up to discuss and gather some more information. And I would like to thank Mary Bulso, who showed up for the meeting, just to provide support to the district and offer some of her expertise in the area, not trying to propose that she get put in an offer on the project, but she was very helpful to have there. It was really great, so thank you for that.
This is the district-wide, right? Going through all the
Yes.
This is for the
Capital.
district.
This is our whole
this is for
capital
the
plan.
district-wide capital planning project.
Perfect.
I think you should mention that the noise that came from the high school this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
As a facilities update.
Certainly.
It works.
It wasn't on my original agenda. Yes.
The alarms are
Should I
working.
mention names? Should I mention names? No.
It must have been William Chapman.
And Sam
So as a brief additional update,
strikes again.
the new fire system at the high school has been officially tested. Live.
Very well.
It was loud.
Loud. Everyone was evacuated from the building this morning. There was some
It must have been a
smoke that was
shocker.
created in the kitchen.
It was before first
Apparently, there was one of the top portions of an egg sandwich got a little overcooked, and the smoke went out into the kitchen area. And our extremely sensitive and effective new smoke
updated,
detectors
Perfectly.
worked wonderfully and alerted everyone, and the building was evacuated.
It was 20 degrees out.
Thank you to the fire department that had a
Absolutely.
terrific response time.
Did.
And
We didn't have to call.
it went wonderfully.
Had there been a fire drill Since the new system.
There had not been, there had
So it's
not
a
been
good
a
drill.
live
It was a
fire
good
drill,
drill,
but
right?
the system had been tested.
Like for the
Multiple
kids.
times.
Yeah, I
Right,
know.
but there had not been one with the kids, so this was the
There have
first
been now.
fire drill.
Did they pass?
Yeah,
Then
they've
that
had
first
fire
20-degree
drills,
fire drill?
Right,
They've
but
had
not
fire
with
drills,
this.
but not since
Not
the
with
new
the new
system.
system.
no.
Good.
Hey,
I'm glad it
And
works.
so concludes my report.
why, thank you.
Very efficient.
And an egg sandwich.
No eggs fried tomorrow morning, please.
A text from one of my kids was, I just want to know if there's still going to be breakfast.
Was there?
Was there?
Was there? There was still breakfast,
Question of the day, is there still breakfast?
Is there still breakfast?
but no egg
And
sandwiches.
for the record, there was a breakfast sandwich injured during the making of this.
Better that.
No.
All right, school committee forum. Anyone have anything they would like to bring forward? All right, I would like to see, if possible, we can schedule an executive session for December 19th. That's next week, Thursday at 5:30. Looking at your calendars, would we have a quorum?
I would be there.
I will be there. No?
Hang on. We have
Yeah, rack right after, yeah. It would be brief.
I will be here.
Okay. So you'll be there too, right?
have it on my calendar. What time? What time?
5:30.
That's the rack we moved to 6:30, Sarah.
Yep. 6:30 Thursday.
I know.
Oh, there it is.
have it right here.
I see it, right there.
Thank you. I cannot be there.
You cannot? All right, so that's 1, 2, 1, 2. Ooh, okay. Well, we need Tammy or
If you
Karen.
did it earlier, it could, I know that's.
All right, let me check with Tammy.
If I can be there, how many do we need?
We need one more, Tammy or Karen, either or.
Oh.
So,
Tammy can't be there.
she cannot?
Probably not.
Okay. So Karen. All right, I'll check. If not, we might need to move it up a little bit earlier.
Just tell her she has to, she'll do it.
Is it just executives, is it just executive session?
Yes, it's just executive session.
So I might be a possibility.
Okay.
I just need to leave the latter end of it.
Well, we have a 6:30?
Yep,
Rack
rack
meeting,
meeting.
so, but it won't.
Okay. I should be. I
Okay.
have to confirm
Okay,
with my other half.
okay. All right. And the next school committee meeting, January 9th. And we do hope to have a joint town meeting the week following that, but date has not been set yet. Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by, was that Wendy? Was that you? Wendy, seconded by Jack. All those in favor?
Aye.
And to all, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate with your loved ones and enjoy. And good luck in finals for those who have.